Star Wars The Acolyte. Boy, just saying those words must have rustled at least someone's jimmies out there. Oh boy. So, I haven't talked much about the Star Wars shows on this channel. I mean, I reviewed The Last Jedi years ago, back when it was the talk of the town. I also talked extensively about Star Wars The Clone Wars in my Race to the Edge video. A choice that people still get mad at me to this day about. Oh, you talk too much about Clone Wars in your Race to the Edge video. It's almost like you were comparing two characters in two different shows and how one show was able to use their character well, while the other show wasted them. It's almost like that was the whole point of your video. Okay, all that aside, I have been watching the Star Wars content that's been coming out on Disney Plus over the years. Mandalorian, Boba Fett, Andor, fucking Ahsoka, shit, Kenobi, you name it. But I never really felt the need to make videos on them since I feel like I wasn't adding anything new to the conversation about those shows. I kind of agree with pretty much everyone when it comes to the good and the bad of those respective shows. Boba Fett was a major waste of a fun anti-hero. Kenobi sure was a mixed bag, wasn't it? That first episode was really hilarious, while that last episode was genuinely pretty good actually. Ahsoka was absolutely atrocious and I have no idea how anyone actually liked it. Let alone say it's some of the best Star Wars content out there. Like, what the fuck do you people even see in that garbage? Holy fuck! Andor was genuinely incredible. Better than it had any right to be, and honestly, it's kind of sad that nobody talks about it as much as they should. The Bad Batch was really good, undeniably flawed in the first season or so, but definitely picks up in the later half of the show. And now we have come to The Acolyte, a show that had a lot of hype from what I recall. I mean, do y'all remember that poster? It certainly got people's attention. A murder mystery set 100 years before The Phantom Menace, an entirely new cast of characters, a darker, more edgy tone? Hell yeah! Sign me the fuck up right now, brother. This actually sounds pretty good, and the trailers look pretty good. This is gonna be the best Star Wars ever!
5 hours later. That's it?
So I watched The Acolyte, and I did not like it. Ooh, watch out. I got a really hot take on this show. I didn't like it. Honestly, that might be a hot take for this show because for some people, simply not liking it isn't enough. I know that the Star Wars fandom can be vitriolic at times, but man, I have not seen the fandom be this worked up, this absolutely livid, this vitriolically insane in quite some time. They weren't like this for Boba Fett or Kenobi or the third season of Mandalorian. This show just really got under a lot of people's skins. And let's not kid ourselves, we know what one of their problems was. Ooh, it's Disney being woke again. They put black people in Star Wars. Cause when has there ever been black people in Star Wars? Oh, and they put lesbians in Star Wars? Good grief. No one tell these people about Sabe or Jahane. Women who are canonically lesbian were lesbian when George owned the franchise because apparently that matters and have been confirmed to be. This isn't even that groundbreaking for Star Wars. It's not even the first time we've seen a canonical couple between two women in Star Wars. Get over it. Oh, but they refer to this animal thing as a they. Could they be any more woke? Okay, then tell me what its gender is. Right now. Don't look it up. Don't cheat. Maybe it was just the sensible word to use because you can't fucking tell! Honestly, I'm surprised you people passed 3rd grade English considering how utterly terrified of pronouns you are. I think there is a vast difference between something like Peter Pan and Wendy, which was egregious with its representation, and The Acolyte, which just has it. It's not something they're shoving down our throats or anything, you know, unless gay people simply existing counts as being shoved down your throat, which it shouldn't. The show isn't anything groundbreaking for Star Wars at all. I mean, for fuck's sake, did y'all even know that Lando is canonically pansexual? One of the most jazzed up men in the entire franchise, and he is part of the LGBTQ community. That is gonna rustle some jimmies in the comments, I can already see them. But then you have some of the most disingenuous criticisms I think I've ever heard for anything. Like people were genuinely making shit up to be offended by just because they wanted to hate the show that badly. Like how Kenai Mundi is in the show. Oh, typical Disney, just can't help themselves with nostalgia baiting. Or maybe he's just really fucking old in the prequel trilogy. Oh, if only there were characters in Star Wars who we knew were stupid old. Maybe it's a sci-fi fantasy where some characters can live for hundreds of years because that's just how it is for them. Well, Kenai Mundi was there 100 years ago and yet he didn't know about the Sith? That breaks the lore for the entire franchise. Yeah, but wasn't that, the point? That the Jedi were wrong about the Sith returning the whole time? Also, the show ends with them covering up the existence of the Sith from everybody, so the show actually explained that part, so there. Oh, but the crown jewel of criticisms, just so deep and layered. Something that everybody can agree with. How dare this show actually have fire in space?
It's so dumb.
Oh, it's so dumb, it's brilliant.
No! It's just dumb!
Right? Like, I can tolerate black and gay people in Star Wars, but I draw the line at fire in space. Because when has Star Wars ever had fire in space? Good question, right? Honestly, at this point, Dave Filoni should just turn in his keys and never be allowed to eat lunch in this town again. What the hell was he even thinking? It honestly made you wonder if these Star Wars fans actually watch Star Wars at all in their life. I mean, with Dragon Ball fans, we make that joke all the time, but that's because there's usually a hint of truth in what's being said. Oh, Goku's a bad father. Not true, but throwing a senzu bean at Cell was genuinely kind of fucked for him to do. You're wrong, but we get it. But with this show, I swear it's either the most elaborate case of trolling I've ever seen, or people were just genuinely trying to make as many people hate the show as possible by making it sound as bad as possible. Like, guys, you don't need to lie about this show being bad. It's entirely bad on its own. What? It's lifeless, it's boring, it's just such a nothing show that doesn't deserve all the vitriol that it's gotten. And whatever brief, interesting ideas it has are completely ruined by its weak writing and bad characters. Okay, so I kind of liked Soul. He was the only character in the show I had some mild intrigue in. Like, you could tell he was hiding something from the beginning, but you could also tell he genuinely did care about Osha and Mai, and did try to do his best by both of them. I think a lot of that just comes from Lee Jung-jae's performance, as he's easily the best actor in the show. Hearing about all the hard work he put into learning English over the course of 4 months honestly makes you feel kind of bad for him. You can tell he's trying so hard to make this role work, but God bless him, there's just so little to work with here. I guess I also like the one mom who was cool with Osha going to become a Jedi. I actually kind of liked how torn she was between letting Osha follow her dream of being a Jedi and the cult of witches who wanted her to stay. I don't know, it was sort of nice. Is that okay? Am I allowed to like one of the lesbian witches? Am I still a Star Wars fan to you people? It was a nice moment of humanity in an otherwise lifeless, dry product. The direction of the show is abhorrent. Just stilted, dull, uninteresting, which is a shame because the choreography in some of these fights is actually pretty good. Unfortunately, the best ones are shot in this dark, cluttered forest, which is often obstructed and you can't get a feel for the speed or the energy of the battle. Seriously, how have none of these shows outside of the animated realm ever even come close to what was achieved in the prequel trilogy? We got a couple of decent fights in Kenobi, but that's about it. It's possible, but these shows just don't bother for some reason. They, for whatever reason, still try to make their fights feel more grounded like the original trilogy was, which is fine, I guess, but those were still well shot. They were immersive, they were intense. Get the fuck out of the trees! Stop with all these quick cuts, it looks awful! The final battle was okay, but it's no battle of Mustafar or Naboo. At this point, they should just have all the Star Wars shows be animated. Like, it's crazy how consistently good the animated Star Wars is compared to live-action Star Wars. I honestly don't even get what the point of the show is. Like, it was marketed to be a murder mystery where the whole show would be about trying to discover who's going around killing Jedi, but then they throw that whole thing out the window by revealing who the murderer is in like the first episode. So that's fun. Hey, remember in episode 2 when everyone thought Osha killed that one Jedi? I thought that was gonna be the story. Osha has been framed for murder and now she needs to find the real killer in order to prove her innocence, right? No, that could have actually been a fun story to follow. This one guy just walks around the corner and says, oh, I was with her the whole time, so she's not a murderer and she has no need to run away now. What the fuck was the point of that? Speaking of that Jedi, can we talk about how he is more guilty for everyone's death in this show than Soul was? And the reason for why he got so many people killed? It's because he was bored. I'm not kidding.
I'm just sick of eating Nuna legs. And I want to go home to Coruscant. We've been here for 7 weeks. And there's no one here, and if we were going to find something, we probably would have found it by now. So there's some plants here. Big deal.
Calm yourself, Padawan.
He was fucking bored? Are you serious? What is he, fucking 5? Mommy, I'm bored. I don't want to scan grass anymore. I want to go home. Can we stop by McDonald's on the way? It's not like this guy saw some traumatic event or anything that would make you feel for him. He's literally just sick of being there and he's bored. So what does he do? He steals a speeder bike to go kidnap Osha and Mai, all so that he can go home and go to bed. I would have said that makes him the most relatable character in the show if it wasn't for the fact that Osha and Mai's lives are entirely ruined by this boy, all because he's tired and wants to go home. When Soul stabs the mom and kills her, like, you get it. It's a complete misunderstanding because yeah, you don't know what the hell she's doing. It looked like she could be a danger, so it made sense to act that way. What Soul did was wrong, but you get why he did it. I can't justify this kid at all, though. When Mai kills him in episode 2, all I can say on rewatch was, yeah, I get it. He sucks. I'd kill myself too if I got an entire group of people killed all because I was bored. This shit was so dumb. What were they thinking? Speaking of the sisters, can anyone name a damn thing about either of them? They have got to be the single most boring main characters in any Star Wars property. I think the characters from EA Battlefront 2's campaign mode were more interesting than these girls. Can any of you name a single personality trait that either of these girls exhibit? Is Osha a proud girl? Is she shy? Bashful? Happy? She's bored. And her actress looks bored. Half the time, I'm not even sure what Osha wants. Like, is she trying to stop her sister from killing people, or is she tagging along simply because she has to? The story wants me to believe she's there because she wants to be, but the actress's performance makes me believe she doesn't want to be there, and is only there because the plot demands it. I guess Mai is a little better. I can name one trait about her. She's obsessive, but that's not a lot to go on, and she's not compelling or fun to watch at all, especially when she just decides to surrender to the Jedi halfway through the show anyway. Which leads me to talk about the Sith Lord. So you figure with this being a mystery and all, the villain would be someone who is always there the whole time and has a solid motivation for wanting all of these Jedi dead. So you'd be shocked and taken aback to find out that the Sith Lord in this show was in fact some guy.
Some guy?
Yeah.
That's the big reveal? It's just some guy? Who the fuck even is that? Yeah, I know he was introduced in an earlier episode, but he's still just some dude. He has practically no connection to any character in this show, and his only motivation for plotting the murders is, you don't want my kind to exist. I want a pupil. Just typical Sith stuff we've seen before, but at least Maul was interesting and Palpatine was fun. What the fuck does Khmer have anyway? Seriously, I thought we were done with these Rogue One ass names. He's not fun, he's not interesting. Oh, but he took his shirt off in one scene. I honestly cringed so hard when he did that. It gave me really bad Kylo Ren vibes from The Last Jedi. Like, is that seriously the only reason people are gonna like this guy? Because they want to be fucked by him? I mean, whatever, have your fantasies and whatnot, but don't you dare look me in the eye and pretend he's actually a good character. Why wasn't it the other mom who was the Sith Lord, huh? Who was leading Mai to make the choices she made? It just made sense from every narrative standpoint. The Jedi destroyed the witches, killed her wife, and stole one of her daughters. And on top of all that, Mai wanted the Jedi to suffer too. So you would have had this daughter-mother Sith duo for the first time in Star Wars that I'm aware of. Oh, we were right there, man! Kirill wanted revenge for her wife's death and would have wanted Osha to return to her. But Osha, still believing that Mai was responsible for her death, would have fought back. It would have made for some genuinely compelling drama. I mean, sure, the sisters would still be drier than powdered cinnamon, but at least the idea was there. It would have been enough to keep my attention. But no, it's just some guy.
Yeah.
And no, I don't care if he was the She-Hulk's apprentice or whatever. She's barely in the show too and has no character as well. I'll admit the show has some nice ideas now and again. I do like Osha turning to the dark side in the end. I do like how the Jedi throw Soul under the bus to cover up the Sith Lord and protect their tax-exempt status. These are interesting ideas in a vacuum, but they are brought down by a show with such little life, such boring direction, such misguided decisions that it honestly baffles me that this show got the reaction it did. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's bad, but people acting like this is the single worst thing Star Wars has ever made, that Disney has gone too far with this, is honestly laughable. Like, are you seriously telling me lesbian witches are worse to you than Finn being horribly wasted, or Boba Fett being turned into a good guy, or that chase scene from Kenobi? Actually, I take that last one back. That was comedy gold. This is not the bottom of the barrel for Star Wars. Hell, I'd make an argument that it's still better than both Rise of Skywalker and Attack of the Clones. The Acolyte is just another bad Star Wars show in a sea of bad Star Wars shows. I mean, yeah, it's worse than Boba Fett or Mando Season 3, but it's not like those things were good anyway. It was definitely better than Ahsoka. Like, dear lord, how the fuck did anyone like that trash heap? Bottom line is, if you hated that show for having fire in space, then you need to have your credit card revoked and never be allowed to watch anything Star Wars related ever again. There's plenty of things to talk about with this show, like how stupid that choice Soul made in episode 7 was. Like, you can't just grab the girls themselves? Surely they're not as heavy as the bridge itself, right? What, you can't tell the girls to back up? They can just walk off the bridge, easily! There's a lot to hate about Star Wars The Acolyte, but I also feel people are hating it for the wrong reasons. All shows and movies, regardless of their quality, deserve to be reviewed fairly. And Star Wars The Acolyte isn't bad because of lesbians or fire in space. It's bad simply because it sucks.
I can't wait to leave this town, 'cause lately I've been feeling down. The cold nights just don't feel the same. Oh,